Hello my lovelies, happy Tip Tuesday. In this video I'm going to give you some ideas for spicing up the variety in your photo sessions. This also marks the start of Tip Tuesdays moving over here to YouTube. They're going to be recorded over on Instagram at CatsDog Photography, which you can find us here. They're going to be recorded the week before, and then I'm going to pop up a cut version just in here so that you can watch it back at your leisure. I do appreciate you joining me live. That gives you the opportunity to talk to me and ask any questions that you have. But if you're watching this on the replay, then feel free to pop them in the comments. Let's jump into this week's live. When you're doing a photo session, how can you get a little bit more variety in there? Let's find out, shall we? Spice up your shot variety. That is the lesson today. One way that I think is the easiest way to get variety in your shot is to mix it up with the different lenses and focal lengths that you're using. Even if you only have one lens, like a I don't know, a 24 to 70 for example, you can do some right out at 24 inches and get almost like a wide angle look and take in your scene and a little bit more detail. And you can zoom right in at 70mm and cut out that clutter and get a more compressed telephoto look. So you don't necessarily need to have a whole bag of lenses. You can get different focal lengths with one lens, but it's helpful if you have lots of different lenses, so you can really, mix it up. And this is all from one session. It's one location, but it's two different spots in this location. So this is the Atom Panopticon. It's a viewing station. It's a crazy thing. It's like a big globe, and there's these little holes in the globe that look out over the Pendle countryside. And I've used one lens, my 50mm, to get a little bit more compression in there. I think I've used quite a shallow depth of field. So this one here is at 12mm. So that one I've done super wide to get like a quirky look and really take in that framing around him. And then this one, these are both down at the bottom of the hill. There's an old ruin of what was a stately home. It was really beautiful. And I've used a more kind of compressed look just here. And again, it just cuts out all that clutter and really allows you to focus on the subject if you use a long telephoto lens. We were discussing, was it last week? Not last week, the week before, when I went through all my lenses, all my Sony lenses, and I was saying that wide angles are great, but you have to really think about the composition. You have to think about what's in the background, etc. And then 12 to 24, again, getting a bit of a wider shot in there. Silhouettes. If you've got a bright background, that might be a sky, or it might be perhaps something lit, like maybe some lights or something behind, like a big sheet maybe a sheet with lights on it, or maybe just loads of floodlights, something like that. Anything that's basically a bright lit background, that will allow you to do a silhouette. Now, it won't work against the sky if you're shooting in midday sun, because you'll have the sun will cast light on both sides of the dog. You need to have the sun on the opposite side of the dog to you, or the light needs to be on the opposite side of the light to you. Like this little one here, obviously there wasn't much light. It's a very grey day, but the brightest side of the sky was on the opposite side of the subject. Carol says, I love that shoot. Yeah, I think you're talking about Odin's there. That was a really, really good session. Gorgeous little model and great location as well. And you can, so when you're doing a silhouette shot, you can look for things to include in that silhouette. So here we've framed the dog here with this tree. I say we because it's it's me and Michael crafting the shot behind the camera, even though I'm the one pressing the button. But we framed this with the trees so that it really gives that focus onto the dog in the middle. This, you've just got the sky, and I'd placed the sun just between the dog's legs so that it created a little sun star, created a little bit of interest. And then here, this is the Men Untold down in Cornwall. It's a very ancient structure, kind of a little bit like a mini Stonehenge type thing. And, using the hole that's created as part of the silhouette creates more interest in the picture. So look for things that you can include with the silhouette. That might be people, which leads me on to my next tip for mixing up your photo sessions, is get the human to get involved. Now, I know a lot of the time pet parents don't want to go and get in the photo, but in my experience, if you can convince them just to give it a go or just do a couple, then they usually really love the pictures and they're really happy with the pictures because it shows that connection between them and their fur baby. It doesn't even have to be the whole of them. It can be, this kind of shot's something I like doing if people are a little bit camera shy, where you've got them walking away from the camera. And these guys, they were absolutely fabulous. They did a little skip and a hop as they walked, which gave so much more character to the shot. But you can just do a simple walking away. It works really nicely in the sunset as well. If you have something like this, where you've got the sun behind and you've got a gorgeous sunset and you have them walking away into the sun, that works really nicely. Having kids involved is always good. Kids are just so not aware of the camera when they're at a younger age, and asking them to interact with the dog. This again, I had them running towards me and they had the stick, so they're kind of playing with the dog as they went. You just want to encourage them, say, yeah, go for it, play with him. And you're crafting something. Like, I knew when I put them down the end of this path that they were going to run toward, asked them to run towards me. I knew they had the stick, so it's likely the dog's going to then interact with them because he wants the stick. So you're kind of putting things in place and then waiting for them to happen, being ready. And then again, having that nice interaction. A lot of the people and pets photos that I do tend to be more interactive, not necessarily looking at the camera or making eye contact with the camera, but just showing that relationship and showing a little bit of interaction. And I think that's quite nice for the client as well, because they feel less like they're sitting there for a picture. They're just interacting with their dog, giving them a stroke. And I think we're all right with that as a rule. Involving props as well, like this was over in Bali. And these are Alden's dogs. He, over there he took, well, everybody over in Bali takes the dogs on the bike, so he would just scoot around with them like that. So I was like, right, drive past me and there's the shot. So if you can include props in with the dogs and the people so they can interact, that's always another thing to experiment with. Using different lighting. So this is a session that we did end of the year. I think maybe that was November time. And we amazingly got a glorious sunny day, but there was still different kinds of lighting you can get within that. It doesn't just have to be the sun on the dog's face. So we found some shade here. This is just at the side of the sand hill. So I've got some shade here that's creating like quite a flat light for this dog here. This is looking more into the sun. So again, both of these are using, in fact, all three of these are using natural light. This is using natural light looking into the sun, but I'm coming round to the side of the dog. I could also have done one there like front on. It depends how low the sun is. Sometimes sun front on with the dog can be a little bit harsh. But I think at this time of year and this time of day that we're shooting would have been fine. Use a little bit of backlight in here. And like here I've got backlight with flash. So then once you've tried all the, using the sun front on, behind, no sun, shooting in the shade, you can then try doing a backlit shot with some flash in there to illuminate those shadows. You can then try doing a flashlit shot with them facing the camera, so you've got the sun and you've got the flash in there. So for a super vibrant shot, you just want to be careful there that you don't cast a shadow over them. You might need to position yourself slightly to the side. And try different angles. So this little guy, Albie, he's looking up at me here. I'm like going over the top of him. I've then got somewhere I'm coming front on. You could come underneath the dog, so you're looking up at them, come to the side of them, like shift around your angle, like try and get all different aspects of the dog. Generally speaking, I think that extreme angles work for my style of photography best. I like to be either like really high or really low. I'm not a massive fan personally of being like just stood and taking the picture of the dog from human eye level, but that's not to say it doesn't work. Experiment with it with your style of photography and see what works for you. Framing your subject is a really cool way to mix up your session as well, and you don't necessarily have to have anything super obvious. You can just pick up a little bit of foliage like I have done here and hold it in front of your camera, so that then creates a little bit of depth. I think this was a little bit of bracken I picked nearby. I found a spot where there was lots of green, so there's it's a really strong green photograph, and I just held it out so that it framed Tia and like kind of created that, like I've got a little circle on my head here on the picture, and it just framed her head perfectly. You can look for like formations in the environment that you're in. Like this was just a little crevice, and as I went down low, it framed Bowie perfectly. So it's almost like he's got like a little wave going around him. There might be like a hole in a rock formation, or like that one we saw earlier of Odin, where you've got the big, what was it called? The atom panopticon that was framing his head there. Doorways as well are a really good one. Doorways, window frames. Last week we went to an old abandoned stable, and that worked absolutely fantastically as framing for the dogs. We had two windows, so there was a window to one stable, and all the building had fallen down. There was just a stone frame, so I had two windows basically framing the dog. Had one on the furthest window, and then the frame of the dog, and then the frame of the other window in front of the dog. So there's basically a frame behind the dog and a frame in front of the dog. So look at different ways you can incorporate framing. It doesn't have to be an obvious door either. Like this was just a shutter in Manchester. Archways as well are really good for framing. And if all else fails, you can always take something to frame your subject with you. So here I've got a lens ball, which, I really need to dig out again. I had a little play with that a while ago and haven't pulled it out of my bag for quite a while. So you might be seeing some more of that very soon on my stories, because this has just made me think, I need to get that lens ball out again. So take stuff with you that you can use for framing. We've been doing lots of stuff with scarves as well. You might have seen again that on my Instagram stories. There's all this gorgeous material swirling around. I can't wait to show you these pictures. I'm really, really happy with how they're coming out so far. Later in the year they will be revealed, but using things to surround your subject in. And in fact, in this one I actually have two aspects of framing. So there's the lens ball, but the lens ball has actually been placed inside it was like a tree kind of fence, like a fence that had been made out of loads of trees, or maybe it was a den or something like that, some sort of like stick structure anyway, that the lens ball has just been balanced in. So Emma Havoc Photography says the second one with the stones is my favorite. It's beautiful. Yeah, this one of Bowie, those rocks up on the top of Malham Cove are just out of this world. Really feel like you're on another planet when you're there. I'm going to follow up with a Q&A shortly, so if you've got any questions you want to ask me about getting variety in your show, or anything about dog photography in general, pop those in the comments and I'll have a little look at that in a sec. Next week I'm going to be expanding on this point of how to frame your subject. And I'll be going through the do's and don'ts that you should be considering when you're doing framing, and showing you some of the mistakes that I've made, so hopefully you can learn from them. And the things that I think a lot of us commonly make, and you don't realise that it's there until someone points it out to you. You're like, oh my God, yeah, I do this all the time. And I'm going to give you some ideas that you can try right away. Perfect Pet Photography says, woohoo, catching it live for a change. Love all your videos. Yay, thank you so much. I'm happy to hear that. I really like having you here as well. And if you're watching this on the replay, what do you think about it being on YouTube? Has that been good? Do you prefer that than all the other ones that are on Instagram video currently? Another thing that's kind of motivated me to move this over to doing the live on Instagram and then the replay over on YouTube is because Instagram video now doesn't allow you to remove the video from your feed. So I don't know if you realize, but with Reels and what you used to be able to do with IGTV, or then Instagram video as it recently moved to, is put it on your main feed, and then after a little bit you can select that you want to take it away from your feed, so remove from your grid, but then it would still stay in the Reels tab and in the videos tab, but they have just got rid of that feature. So I don't really want my feed to be just my face all over there and doing tip videos. I want the Instagram feed to be really pretty and curated and show all my best work. So that's another thing that's really motivated me to move over to YouTube. It's a much more fitting platform for longer videos. Sometimes I'm on with you guys for 1 or 2 hours, and trust me, uploading that to Instagram video, it's a nightmare. So I think YouTube's going to be much easier. As I said, you can watch last week's live on how to non-destructively dodge and burn on YouTube right away now. Awesome. So the Perfect Fit NJ says, I love this format. It's like a TV show. Great. And isn't that ironic? It's like a TV show, and yet this is no longer IGTV. They scrapped IGTV. We've done it better. Woohoo! I think it looks great in this format, says Emma Helvig Photography. Good. Amazing. Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate that. Right, let's just scroll up a little bit more here. So Emma Gross-Smith Photography, oh no, sorry, she joined. Bobek Deer Photography says, any ideas for different shots and composition? Goes out of the door when I'm shooting. Then when I get home, I'm like, oh, I forgot this and this. And Adventure Portrait says, I second this. Bobek Deer Photography says, any advice on how to keep a focus and a plan in my head? Do you know what I mean? I think it's super important on any session to go with your heart. And if you should have a rough plan in mind, like, you know, you want to shoot at a certain place because there's going to be this, that, and the other. And maybe there's one key shot that you're like, we're here for this shot. I want to nail this shot. And you might spend a little bit longer on that shot, and that's okay. But if all the other things that you planned or thought you might do go out the window because you're inspired by loads of different things, hang on, I'm just going to go full screen so you can see my face. Yeah, so if you're inspired by loads of other things and you want to roll with them, then that's okay. It doesn't matter. And that also means there's loads to get from that location, and you can come back to it in the future and, you know, get more shots. So I wouldn't say that that's a big deal. I don't think that I ever do exactly everything that I plan to on a session. It's always mixed up. So don't worry about it. That's okay. If there's something that you really want to nail, then I think I'd perhaps tell your party that, right, you have to get this shot, that you think this is going to be amazing, it's really going to be worth spending a bit of extra time on. Then, you know, make sure you set that out as an agenda, but go with the flow. Holly Dyer Photography says, advice for those forgetting shots. I put a list of shot ideas behind my live view flip screen so that I can flip to it if I get stuck and want to check off the must-get shots. That's a great idea. So you've got that just kind of like at the ready. Also, you can write on your notes on your phone. If you're anything like me, you might be doing behind the scenes stories, and you can just have a look, you know, whilst you're walking. Perhaps you've taken your phone out to do a video or whatever, or, you know, just grab your phone out of your pocket. It's not a crime. And have a look in your notes and see what your shot list is, and tick that off. You know, when we have lots of dogs, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, which is this Black Labrador Benny or is this Black Labrador Jenny? And then I can have a look and see in my notes, and that's often very helpful as well. So use the tech that you have with you. But that's a really good idea, Holly. Putting it behind your live view, I like it. And then no one's going to know what you're doing. Do you know, I'm just reading that again. I'm thinking, so do you have that as, Holly, do you have this as a playback? So like when you're reviewing your pictures. So I was thinking they had it like written down on a physical list behind a flip screen. But I'm wondering if you mean you have it digitally. That is very, very clever, if that's what you mean. Tell me how you do that, please. The Perfect Fit NJ says, do you use Capture One? I use Lightroom. I have used Capture One in the past. Back when I was a family portrait photographer, we had Capture One, but I use Lightroom myself now. Yeah, great idea, Holly, says Bobek. Deer Photography. Andrew Wixon Photography says, what wide angle lens would you suggest for a Sony user? Whichever you like, my love. On my Canon, I used to have the 16 to 35. I decided to go with my Sony for the 12 to 24. Not necessarily because I think it's any better than the 16 to 35, but just because I'd already had a 16 35 and I was like, hey, let's try something different. I think a prime lens would be really nice in the wide as well. I'd love to see how that deals with any distortion that you might get. I have had a look at the, oh gosh, which was it now? I can't remember if it was a 12mm or an 11mm in the Sony Prime. I'm not sure which one they do, but anyway, I was having a look at a prime wide, and I think that would be really fun to work with as well. But I found both of them good, the 16 to 35 on my Canon and the 12 to 24 on my Sony. I wouldn't say one's better than the other, focal length wise that is anyway. So Holly says, Yeah, I have it as a post. Oh, right, okay. So she has it as a post-it note stuck behind her live view. That is, yeah, that's very clever. It would be even smarter, wouldn't it? I wonder if this is something you can do. If you're watching this and you know that this is a possibility, please tell us so we can all learn from this wizardry. If you could do like a review and have the picture. Oh, I know how you could do it. Right, so before you go out in the session, you could write a list of all the shots that you have to get. And you could save that as a JPEG, then load it onto your SD card or your CF card, whatever. Oh no, because it would have to be readable by the Sony or by the camera. I don't know if the camera would be able to read it or not. That's the only thing. If the camera could read it, then that would be really cool, because then you could have a look through your digital viewfinder or on the back of your viewfinder and see your shot list. Tell me if this is possible. I have no idea. I'm spitballing here. Holly says I'm not that savvy. The Perfect Fit NJ says, are you planning on getting the new Sony 70-200? No, I have the original 70-200 in the Sony. I don't have any plans of getting the new one right now. Do you? Perfect Pet Photography says, any tips for keeping blank shots of the background once you've removed the subject in the same focus as when the subject was in the shot? So you want to make sure that you've not got autofocus on. Make sure that you have, so I use back, this works if you have back button focus on, so you can then stop focusing. If you have, what I meant is make sure you've not got the autofocus on the same button as the trigger. So if you move to a back button focus to focus, then when you take your thumb off the back button focus and just press the shutter button to release the shutter to take the picture, then it won't change the focus. Another way of getting around that, if you don't want to use back button focus, is to move the focus on your lens from autofocus across to manual focus, and then take your shot, and then you can put it back to autofocus on your lens afterwards. So the Perfect Fit NJ says, I shoot Fuji, so I got their 50 to 140 2.8. I heard the new Sony version is much improved. Oh, really? Okay, it's not on my horizon, but I'm going to have a look now you've mentioned that. Cool. Thanks for the suggestion. Have you seen the back of my phone, by the way? Look at the state. We've got candles all over the studio at the moment because the trip switch, I don't know if you saw my story, but all the lights went out. Just in the viewing room for some reason, in the kitchen, the bathroom, at the back of the studio. And I arrived there and I was so scared I actually had to call Michael and have him on the phone while I went and checked that no one was in there and lit some candles. So it's all candle lit now. It's quite nice, actually, quite nice and mood lit. And as I was blowing them out before, I got it all over the back of my phone. And yeah, it's rather smashed from dropping it on the top of Malham Cove as well. But I need to go down into the cellar to reset the trip switch. And I'm scared of the dark. I can't go down there, so I didn't go down there tonight. I'm going to have to go in the day when it's less scary. The Perfect Fit NJ says, I just got an iPhone 13. That cinematic mode is crazy nice. Ooh, really? You know, I really rate iPhone cameras. This is actually an iPhone 12 Pro. And, I mean, it was a jump from the 10. And the 10 was pretty good. I think when you're just snapping around, you don't want to have to bother with the technicalities of a camera. You know, iPhones are just doing such a good job these days. You get what you pay for. Send your boyfriend down, says the Perfect Fit NJ. Yeah, I did call Michael and tell him that he's going to have to do it. It's too dark and scary down in that cellar. Old Victorian artifacts lying around like old light switches and stuff. Ooh, spooky. Loads of people don't know that iPhones are waterproof. I actually wash my phone in the under the sink in the tap. Hi, hello, Amanda. Top Nut and Tails. Charlie, who's my client that was just in the studio earlier, says the candle light was lovely. I agree. I think it was nice, and it smelled nice as well, the candle. Hello, 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 says Ali. Anzad. Oh my god, I'm not even going to pronounce that. I'm so sorry. Says Ali. Hello, hello, Ali. You guys are active tonight. I like that. I love it when you come on here and chat to me. Appreciate it. I appreciate all of you being here. All right, I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you for joining me on this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. If you'd like to let me know in the comments what you found useful, I definitely appreciate that. I love hearing from you guys. And if you found this a valuable video, then please give it a thumbs up as well. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss out on future Tip Tuesday videos, giving you tips on all things dog photography. And if you'd like to catch one of these videos live, then you can join me over on Instagram. I usually go live every Tuesday. It might sometimes be a Monday or Wednesday, but I will let you know. So go ahead and follow me over there, and I'll catch you there live. Bye.